Council, which this evening is also a session of the Atascadero Public Finance Authority. So we will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance, which we led this evening by Councilmember Funk.
Please rise and join me as you are able to pledge allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance of the United States and to the republic, one nation, with liberty and Thank you, and we will proceed with roll call.
Council and Board Member Funk.
Here.
Council Board Member Newsom.
Here.
Council Board Member Peak.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chair Darris.
Here.
And Mayor and Chair Bourbeau.
Here.
All present.
All right, thank you. So, well, if you are here in person, we have several people here this evening, or if you're listening through one of the many avenues, you can watch or listen to the City Council meeting. Welcome. We welcome you and are glad you are here. We are going to begin this evening with presentations in the form of employee recognitions, and this will be done by our city manager, Mr. Jim Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's always a privilege to honor the tenure of our employees. As you know, this is a choice place to work, and people enjoy it here, and they see that, and they stay here, which is great. And so we have kind of a hall of fame of 3 employees tonight. You're going to know all these employees, and they're doing amazing things. So I'm looking forward to recognizing 3. I'm going to start with Matt Pigeon. Matt, come on up here. This guy is a rock star. Oh. Matt Pigeon worked in the private sector for years, but he had clarity and came to be with us, and we are so glad he did. He is the Deputy Public Works Director over maintenance. He's our workhorse. I better get on a script, but I could talk about Matt all night by myself. He's the Deputy Director for Maintenance, overseeing streets, parks, building maintenance, divisions of Public Works. He began with us in December of 2020 as Public Works Operations Manager and promoted to his current role in July 2022. Prior to city employment, he was the paving superintendent for Souza Construction, where he oversaw construction of F14 projects, San Lucia Road reconstruction between Ardea and Portola. Matt's knowledge, skills, and experience in the construction industry are invaluable to supervising and managing maintenance operations and the 13 employees he oversees. These divisions are the bread and butter of Public Works and associated with the general public sees in action every day. Matt is highly motivated to ensure city facilities are in good working order, clean, and safe for the public. Matt is reliable, quick thinking, and has a strong work ethic that makes him highly respected by his peers and coworkers. He lives in Atascadero with his wife, Brittany, and their 2 sons, Sam, who is in 6th grade, and Ben, who is in 4th grade. Are they here today? You guys wave to the city council. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Outside of work, he's very busy coaching baseball, basketball, fishing, boating, and more fishing. When he sees me on the sideline, he reminds me of good sportsmanship. And I got to tell you, man, you are the pride you have in this city, in our facilities, and I'm going off script. Your loyalty and commitment to calls any time of night. You inspire your troops, and this place looks like it does because of you. I know you're not one to take all the honor, but we are so privileged to have you work for us. So happy 5 years. 5 years. Okay, here comes another celebrity here on the staff. Ryan Hayes, the Deputy Public Works Director, Engineering. This is 10 years. Look at you, look good. You're still doing good. All right. It's all that you have no stress, man. You're running all of our projects. Ryan Hayes is the Deputy Public Works Director and Engineering Utilities Manager, overseeing engineering and wastewater divisions of Public Works. Wastewater. And he began his employment with the city in October of 2015 as Deputy Public Works Director and appointed Engineering and Utilities Manager in November 2023. And we're so glad he decided to be with us. Prior to city employment, Ryan spent 10 years as a project engineer and designer at Rick Engineering and Cannon Associates, working on a variety of public works and private development projects, including the downtown streetscape project. Ryan was the construction manager on that, and he was out there every day, and that project finished on time and on budget as a result of his leadership and tenacity. He is just a terrific project engineer. Over the past 10 years, he made his mark on Atascadero with impressive contributions to pavement management, stormwater management, traffic engineering, development review, inspections, right-of-way management, and capital projects. He's currently still the project manager for the Downtown El Camino Project Phase 2. That includes our arches, tunnels, and the finishings. And he's the project manager for our public safety projects, so for our new fire station and our updated police station. And he's also in charge of the wastewater treatment plant modernization project. So I don't know how he does it, but he does with a smile. And he has the largest capital project undertaken in the city, the wastewater project. We keep getting these bigger projects every time, which is really exciting for him and for us. Ryan's tenacious, has an incredibly strong work ethic. He's a creative problem solver, and that lends to his success and accomplishments. Ryan has a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Cal Poly, where he competed in cross country and track and field. He's always zooming around on his bicycle. You go like hundreds of miles, don't you? He lives in Templeton with his wife Camille and their 3 children: Josiah, who's in 9th grade; Kyla, who's in 8th grade; and Donovan, who is in the 5th grade. Are they here? Some of them. Hi guys, good to see you. I see you on Sundays sometimes. It's good to see you today. That's outstanding. Outside of work, Ryan is an avid road bicyclist, so please don't hurt him. We need him. He's very important. And he's busy coaching soccer, building shelters for Kyla's horse, and working on their house and property. Ryan is just one of those can-do spirits. He is a great team member. He always figures out a way to solve a problem. When 100 proof, as Councilmember Funk would say, the 100 proof city manager is starting to show up, Ryan is really good at laying it all out, setting reality, setting a good course, to which I'm very grateful. And I can't imagine the staff without him and the success of our projects without him. So congratulations on 10 years. Thank you. Okay, let's see. 25 years ago was right after the new millennium. Like we had like Belle Biv DeVoe and Salt and Pepper. What were we listening to? All kinds of stuff. And that is when Captain Tom Birkenfeld came to work for us. Come on up here, man. Look at that guy. Wait, 25 years, you get a speech. You get a speech. So you might want to be ready. Tonight, we honor Fire Captain Tom Birkenfeld for 25 years of service to the city of Atascadero and over 30 years in the fire service. That is remarkable. Wow. The fire service is Tom's second career. After college, he joined the Navy and was trained as a physical therapist. Following the completion of his service to his country, he began a career as a physical therapist in Oakland. His passion for public service led him to complete a fire academy and work shifts as a reserve firefighter with the Oakland Fire Department. Wisely deciding that Oakland might not be the best place to live and raise a future family. Very smart. Tom moved into a physical therapist office in San Luis Obispo and settled here in Atascadero. He was hired by the city as a reserve firefighter in 1996 and as a full-time firefighter in 2000. Promoted to fire engineer in 2002 and then to fire captain in 2017. Now, this is an impressive list of things. Listen to this. Tom is a founding member of the North County Urban Search and Rescue Team and recognized as an expert in all things related to technical rescue: swiftwater, confined space, trench building collapse, helicopter operations. I may have been in a swiftwater situation when I was assistant city manager with him, and I'm grateful for his training. Tom also oversees all vehicle maintenance. He organizes the ongoing maintenance and service of the fire engines and has led to the vehicle committee to design and spec our new engines, which you'll see tonight, including the new Wildland engine and a soon-to-be-delivered structure engine. The department appreciates Tom's attention to detail and organization in keeping our apparatus safe and response ready. Tom lives in Atascadero and is married to Christine, who's a school teacher in Paso Robles. They have 2 sons, Brett and Kyle, who have both followed in their dad's footsteps. Isn't that an honor for you? That's pretty neat. Brett works for the U.S. Forest Service in Northern California, and Kyle recently began his career as a firefighter with the Paso Robles Fire Department, where Tom proudly pinned his badge. Outside of work, Tom enjoys mountain biking, skiing, hiking with his dog, and traveling in his motorhome. Tom has recently announced that he plans to retire later this year, so we won't get 30 years in this city with Tom, but for 25, we're grateful. We congratulate Tom on 25 years of full-time service to our community, over 30 years in the fire service, and he has been an extraordinary example to so many young firefighters and engineers as they've worked their way up in leadership. So Tom is definitely one of our finest. We'll miss him when he retires, but for now, we honor you for 25 years. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of the council members and city staff for this award. It means a lot to be here for 25 years. But I really couldn't have done it without my lovely family, my wife and my 2 boys. They've supported me all these years as a firefighter. Your schedule is very it's a varied schedule, right? So I've missed a lot of birthdays, missed a lot of Christmases, and they've understood that, and they've always supported me. So I want to really thank them for that. Um, a lot of nice things were said. Thank you. A lot of activities that I do, but I couldn't do any of these activities with the people that are standing in the back, my fellow firefighters. Um, you know, it's not just a one-person show. There's a lot of people behind those doors that do many things, and they've helped me to do all of these things that I've achieved over the past 25 years. So I've got to thank them as well. And again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you to everybody. It's always a great pleasure to see our employees honored, our long-serving employees, and thanks to all the other employees coming out to see your coworkers be recognized. We are going to move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of items that are considered routine, non-controversial by city staff, and will be acted upon by a single motion unless a council member wishes to pull an item. So with that, I'm first going to ask if any council member would like to pull an item for separate consideration, or would any council member have a question? Okay, question. Go ahead, Councilmember Fung.
There, okay. Sorry, it took several tries. On item 6, in our, the temporary fire station contract award, the table in our packet showed 6.5 million in soft costs. But I just wanted to clarify that what we're voting on tonight is only the $292,373 contract for the pad that's going to give our fire stations a home while Fire Station 1 is being constructed.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you for that clarification. The 6.5 was kind of just to give you an overview of all of those kind of non-bonded costs.
Okay, great. So those are that 6.5 million are costs that aren't being paid for by the bonds that we issued, but are other things that we've saved for and allowed for in budget to make sure that our community can be safe.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to see if any member of the public would like to make a comment on any of the consent calendar items.
Good evening, council. Quick comment on the financial where we pay the bills. It's a positive one, but just want to remind everybody, we do a really good job in this city, and $246,000 approximately monthly. So it's about $4 million a year in employee benefits for Anthem Blue Cross. It's pretty phenomenal. We treat our city very well and our employees very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comments. Okay, with that, seeing no one else approach, I'm going to return it to council for a motion.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk, a second by Councilmember Newsom. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Robo.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will proceed to updates from the city manager, Mr. Lewis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I do have several events to fill you in on. First is the Mother-Son Sweetheart Dance. The second annual is this weekend, January 30th and 31st at the Pavilion on the Lake. There are 15 tickets left for Friday's dance, so please do get those. If you're interested, they can only be purchased at the Colony Park Community Center located on Traffic Way from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tickets are not available at the door, and they're $38 for our residents. Themed How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You. Don't miss this, 15 tickets left. The Father-Daughter Sweetheart Dance is our 21st annual, and it is February 6th and 7th, and it is sold out. So sorry if you weren't able to get a ticket. We've been encouraging people, but it will be a wonderful, wonderful event and sold out. So hopefully I know our daughters and fathers will have a great time. We have a Sweetheart Stroll for all folks, February 13th from 5:30 to 8. This is the Sweetheart Stroll. This one's always very popular and really, really fun. So this is February 13th. Wine, beer, coffee, and other treats from 15 plus businesses downtown for pre-Valentine's Day. So grab your sweetheart, your besties, or anyone else to enjoy our beautiful downtown with a glass of wine as you stroll around. Tickets are available until noon on Friday for $35. So a limited number of tickets will be available at the event, but you always want to try and get it before the event. So the Sweetheart Stroll and Sip and Shop. We have a new event at the zoo because we love our zoo and love our animals. And so this is a new and wildly fun Valentine's celebration on Valentine's Day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is Woo at the Zoo. So we'll have keeper talk specifically about how animals choose their mates and how Valentine's works in the animal kingdom. So that will be an interesting conversation. There will be Valentine-themed activities, including enrichment for the animals. So we love them, and we will make sure that they feel loved. And all this is free for members and included in general admission. So Woo at the Zoo on Valentine's Day from 10 to 1. We have our 9th annual Earth Shine. So this is a great way to serve on Valentine's Day. If you love Atascadero and you love the environment, there's no better place to be than at the creek from 10 a.m. until noon on Valentine's Day for Earth Shine. And you'll get free pizza. Always, our pizza is sponsored by Mayor Bourbeau, so that's very nice. And you get to have pizza with the mayor if you come help from 10 to noon on Saturday, February 14th. We'll supply everything. The Earthshine group is really good at that with gloves and grabbers and bags and safety vests. So we will see you then. Okay, next we have Coffee with a Cop. Now, I think the real question is Coffee with a Cop going to be as popular as Coffee with a Planner was? Coffee with a Planner had 50 people at it. So, Chief, we'll see. We'll see. Coffee with the Cop, Thursday, February 19th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Malibu Brew. And that's a nice, relaxed environment. This is really important, especially today. I would love for the community to meet our police officers and see how well trained they are, see the heart they have for this community, and the compassion they demonstrate as they do their work, keeping our community safe. And more so, the relationships they have with people in the community. So I really encourage people, and I think it'd be a really good way for people to feel good about law enforcement in this community on February 19th from 8 to 10. Please connect with our police department. And I think it's a very healthy thing to do. So Coffee with the Cop. Next, we have recreation registration. So we have a couple things coming up. T-ball registration's open. It ends February 27th. We do need volunteer coaches and sponsors. So if you are interested, please do connect with us so we can have more teams. If we don't have coaches, it's hard to have teams. This is for boys and girls 4.5 to 6 years old. And a coaches meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 19th at Paloma Creek Park. We'll have more information out there soon about that. Adult basketball registration ends March 2nd, and adult social kickball ends March 23rd. Then there's so many things going on. Wow, that's a slide. That is why Director Banish has that funny smile on her face all the time. Look at all of those events that she and her department are responsible for. Wow, Terry, that's impressive. So that is the event calendar. It is in our rec guide. It came out. You can get a hard copy of it. It's great to have next to your family calendar, but you can also go to visitatascadero.com/events. And it's really just a great thing to go through and put those on your family calendar, but it's out there. And then we have on the governance side of things, our annual strategic planning session. So the city council will be meeting this Friday, the 30th from 6 to 9 in this room, and on Saturday the 1st from 9 to 1. And these are more relaxed sessions where the staff will brief the council on all the major projects under their strategic direction. And there's some great updates on the safety facility, the zoo, capital projects, how we're doing business with our asset management and finance systems, downtown development, a lot of great topics for you. We're looking forward to giving you an opportunity to really kind of slow down and dig into these topics and give staff direction as needed. Hopefully we're going the way you'd like us to, but if we need some correction, this is a great time for it. So it's an interesting session, strategic planning this Friday, 6 to 9 and 9 to 1 on Saturday. And that's it. For all event questions, you can go to visitatascadero.com and other city business at atascadero.org. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And Terry, you look like the odd person out tonight. All the other employees are over here. Does any member of the council have any questions for Mr. Lewis? Go ahead, Councilmember Funk.
A quick question. On the Sweetheart Stroll event, are those tickets available from the city or from the Chamber of Commerce?
Chamber of Commerce office. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. City Manager? All right, thank you. With that, we're going to move on to Community Forum. Community Forum is reserved for persons wishing to address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda, but over which the council has jurisdiction. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing items not on the agenda, so council cannot enter into a discussion. We may be able to ask staff a question or refer staff to get together with the member of the public. So with that, you have 3 minutes to speak, and we ask you to state your name for the record. We'll have the first speaker approach, please.
Jeff Oslin. Terry, I have to always look at your calendar, and it's a great thing, but it's also a negative thing for me because we're trying to bring back the K9 fundraiser, and finding a spot's really difficult. So, take a break for a weekend so we can find one. That would be great. But we're looking at maybe pushing one in April. We'll see if we can pull it off. On another note, now that downtown's pretty much done, I have a request, and it's a request of our city manager, police chief, council, which I think it's time that we put a police officer at East Mall for a little bit to educate the kids along with the school district that the walk sign means walk. And when it doesn't, they should not be walking across the street. And jaywalking is still a crime if it's unsafe to walk. And they're really messing traffic up. And then you have accidents like we had a week or two ago. I'm just saying, I think it's time. I observed it again today where the kids just walk across and mess up the flow of traffic there. We put a stoplight in, which is a great thing to prevent injuries, but I think it's time to maybe do a little enforcement down there and say, hey, enough's enough. You guys need to obey this and allow both pedestrian and traffic flow to work. I will give a positive out to Public Works. They've been scrambling to work on that light as well because there was some vandalism to it. They're very attentive, and I appreciate Matt for working hard at it and Nick working hard at it to get the crosswalks actually to turn back so you can actually drive through there. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, and I'm sure the police chief will take that under consideration. Okay, next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and looks like city employees. My name is Jill Stearns. I'm the superintendent president of Cuesta College, and I'm here this evening to express my deep appreciation for our partnership with Atascadero High School and to celebrate the achievement of our dual enrolled students. I provided Manager Lewis with some copies that highlight last year's success. We served last year 500 Atascadero High School students who were enrolled in 65 class sections in which students had the opportunity to earn both high school credit and college credit. Many of those students took more than one class in that modality. And over the last 4 years, we've served 1,389 students, and their success has been phenomenal. Of those students, 352 became transfer prepared, which means they went into university as a junior, and 275 completed a degree with Cuesta College. What the national data tells us is that dual enrolled high school students attend college at a 80% rate. And students who don't engage in dual enrollment opportunities only attend at about a 50% rate. It is making a difference, not only in the attendance rates of students at college and university, but in their success. Those students enter very well prepared and do exceptionally well. Our dual enrollment program is not just about students being able to take a class, but it's about them being able to complete a program that aligns with local workforce opportunities. And so again, I just want to express my appreciation for our partnership with Atascadero High School. Cuesta College has been recognized in the state of California as the community college serving the highest percentage of local high school students. And that would not be possible without our great relationships and the work that occurs at the high school. So I hope when you see someone from Atascadero High, you will give them a shout out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stearns. Any other speakers wishing to speak in community forum? Okay, seeing none, we will close community forum and we will bring it back to council for our next item, which is H1, a management report on structure fire engine replacement. And this will be presented by Fire Chief Bryson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have a request to purchase a replacement Type 1 fire engine. Let's see if I can get our slide up here. Okay, so a replacement for a structure fire engine. I just want to thank the council for considering this tonight. We do have two 2005 engines. One was ordered in 2023 and will be delivered this spring. So this is the second of our two 2005s. It has been a little bit of a big pull over the last few years, keeping these ready to go, response ready. It's been all hands on deck, keeping them up with full maintenance. So replacing this second 20-year-old engine is a big deal for us. So we appreciate you considering this tonight. I'm going to show you just a couple pictures. This will be real brief. This is a Pierce Ultimate configuration on an Enforcer chassis. It has a 2,000 gallon per minute pump, 500 gallons of water, 25 gallons of foam. And these are our first out daily driving fire engines. They carry all of our medical gear, rescue gear, fire, everything that we do on a daily basis, this engine carries. So this is just an example. That's what it'll look like. That's not ours. But I do have a picture of the one that will be delivered this spring. So, and believe it or not, this picture was taken last week, and this engine is scheduled to be done in March. So we wait 2.5, 3 years in line for them to build an engine in a handful of months. So this one we will be inspecting in March in Appleton, Wisconsin, and delivered by the end, hopefully end of March, 1st of April. So I am proud to show you this color scheme. That actually is not just primer, that is gray on the cab. And we are going to a gray cab. It's going to be a little bit different look, but we're proud to show off our allegiance to our Greyhounds with a gray cab. So this is the one, again, being delivered in March. And this one that we're authorizing tonight or asking for consideration is the identical engine. So we'll see the same thing. Here's just a picture of the body. Obviously, those aren't put together yet, and it's amazing to think that that will be done here in just 2 months. recommendation tonight from staff is for council to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with South Coast Fire Equipment for $1,277,000 to purchase a Pierce Type 1 fire engine. With that, I'll hand it over for any questions.
Yeah, actually, I had a couple questions. I mean, we hear about 2, even 3-year lead time on these, and yet it can go from that to assembled in a couple of months.
It's pretty amazing timing. Yes,
Yeah,
there
is it
is
just-
that much of a demand, that much of an order that the lead time was that high. It was a supply issues for a while. I'm not sure that's still the case, but we've been seeing pictures now. The pictures that I just showed were from week 6. So it went from a heap of metal 6 weeks ago to that in week 6, and then completion in March. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is interesting. So I mean, so the lead time is essentially you're just waiting for them to start working on your vehicle.
Correct.
Once they start working on your vehicle, it moves pretty quickly then. Okay, council questions. Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
I don't want to throw you a curveball or anything, but just something I'm curious about. When I compare cars from 2005 to now, there's a lot of features on cars, navigation system, your phone connection, it's a lot more high tech. What things are going to be much more high tech in this than is in a 20-year-old fire engine? I'm just curious of how far, what's different, what's new about it? I mean, I don't mean what's new, but what's going to be better? What's going to make you happier?
That's a fantastic question. I wish I had Captain Birkenfield back here to help me answer that. He's the lead of our build team. The big piece I think that's new has to do with the pump and the chassis, the technology in the electrical work. It's called a Pierce Ultimate Configuration, and they market it as they build the engine around the pump, and they make it much more user friendly. It's easier to work with. It's kind of lower to the ground. So there's that. There are new safety considerations with monitors to make sure everybody has their seatbelt on, backup cameras. So some of that new technology just wasn't seen in the 2005 engines.
Very cool. Thank you.
Let me back up. Can you back up to the picture of the prototype or, of what this will look like built? Speaking of that, keep going. There, that one. This looks kind of substantially different to me in the sense that on our existing trucks, it seems like, there's a big silver panel on the side with a whole bunch of equipment to operate the pump and attach hoses. And then there's a kind of a hose bay there to pull hoses directly off. And you don't kind of see that on here. Is there a substantial difference in the kind of physical layout of the engine, or are we just not seeing that here?
No, that's absolutely correct, Mayor. So what I was trying to describe was the difference in the pump panel, and that is you can see that small silver right behind that back door. So the pump panel is smaller and is in some cases closed up by compartments. So those compartments do go all the way around. It keeps things protected. The pump, they market it as being lower to the ground. So it does look significantly different. That cab looks a little bit different. It's got where it shorter at the front and extends up a little bit taller in the back. So these will look a little bit different. They do not make the Pierce Aero XT, which we currently run. So we had to move to a new model. And this is the one that we felt best fit our needs without being able to get that same older model.
Got it. So along the lines of following up on Mayor Pro Tem Daris's question, if you bought a newer car, yeah, it's got backup cameras, it's got this and that, and you feel like, and then you hear stories about how essentially you're driving a computer, and of course the thing can die for no reason. Then there's, it's not a mechanical problem, it's suddenly an automation problem. What kind of a warranty do these vehicles come with in the sense of, them taking care of everything for a year or two or something like that? What kind of?
There is a warranty. I don't have the exact number on it right in front of me. I could definitely look it up and get back to you. We do have a service center here in Paso, fleet renewal in Paso handles all our warranty work. So we still have our Type 3 under warranty. So if things go wrong, we can run it up to Paso and they'll take care of it outside of our normal mechanic that handles our equipment. So I'll have to get back to you on the exact number of years.
Thank you. Any questions over here? Councilmember Funk?
Yeah, I want to thank you for bringing this forward and ask, first of all, how long were we expecting the engine that this replaces? How long were we expecting it to last?
We have
Typically?
a replacement schedule of 20 years. Jerry's looking at me if she wants to add in, but 20 years and then however long it takes to get this new one in. So it's going to be 2023 plus.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think over time, when we first bought the engines, I think we expected them to have a certain life, and we've kind of changed that as we went over time. But I think what we're finding is that this 20-year time frame is, probably about as long as we can extend that. So we are considering that it's at the end of its lifespan.
Yeah, so the engine that this is replacing is living on borrowed time already, basically. Yeah. So,
Correct.
and what's, the money is coming out of the vehicle replacement fund. What's the status of that fund right now?
There are funds, and we will address an item in a couple of minutes here at this meeting to kind of connect some of the dots on some of the funding. There is about 9 million in cash in that fund currently that is for the current and future purchases of different various fleet vehicles and some equipment in the city.
Okay, so that reflects the budgeting that we've done of funds that taxpayers invested in for us to be able to do these major upgrades to our equipment that keeps the community safe, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll see if any member of the public would like to comment on this item.
Good evening, council. Once again, Jeff Osland, Chief Bryson. I have a crazy question. What happens if you have a fire engine out of service? Do you hang on to an old one just in case one's down for a week or two under warranty or not under warranty? I'm just curious how we continue to operate. Do we get rid of our old fire trucks right away, or do we try and keep one just in case for a while? Thanks.
Any other member of the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council, but I think that's probably a question that many members of the public might have. So Chief, could you answer that?
Absolutely. Great question. We actually have 3 Type 1 fire engines in our fleet. So we have a reserve right now. So we rotate through when one goes down for service. We can put the next one up first out. So we don't plan on keeping the old ones. We'll get rid of. We will keep the third one that we have was purchased in 13, I believe, 14. So that will become our reserve engine. We'll always have that one until that one's due to replacement. But these 2 will be our first out, and then we have our backup.
Okay, looks like Mayor Pro Tem Daris has a follow-up.
Well, see, you just sparked something. So we're going to get rid of this one. I actually didn't consider we would be keeping it. Good question, though. How much we're going to sell it, and what can you sell a used fire truck 20-some years old?
We will sell it. There are fire trader type sites, auction sites, or buying sites for used fire equipment. I'm hesitant to give you a number on what it would bring in. I think we were looking at our used Type 3 that was about 20 years old and anywhere between 75 and 100,000. It'd probably be more than a Type 3, a wildland engine, just because it's a bigger engine. But we'll definitely be doing our research and putting that up for sale.
All right, great. Thank you.
I assume any sales price, so, somebody would want to see the maintenance records to see what kind of a history the vehicle had. I mean, so if it's been problematic, it's going to decrease its value. If it's in good shape and just old, it would probably have a higher value.
I would agree with that. I think a fire department somewhere that's looking for a 20-year fire engine, they probably know that they're going to be putting some work into it, but I think there's going to be some interest in it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. With that, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion that we authorize city manager to execute contract with South Coast Fire Equipment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Peak, a second by Councilmember Funk. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Verbo.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item H2, a management report. It's discussing the fiscal year 2024-2025 audit, and we'll turn this over to our Administrative Services Director, Jerry Rangel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. We're very pleased tonight to bring you the financial statements audited for the fiscal year 24-25. The independent audit firm of Moss Levy and Hartzheim was hired to perform our work. Mr. Travis Hole, a partner with the firm, is available tonight in the audience, and he can address any questions you may have for Moss Levy and Hartzheim. The audit was conducted in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States and standards applicable to the financial audits contained in government auditing standards. The auditors issued what we call a clean opinion, meaning that the auditors agreed that the financial statements were presented fairly and in compliance with accounting principles. Tonight's focus will be on the general fund. The city overall had a very successful year in 24-25. Most general fund revenues exhibited favorable variances. Employee services and operational costs came in under budget, and funds were used effectively to make great progress on our priority goals and projects. The top revenue sources for 24-25 came from property tax, sales tax, transient occupancy tax, and permits and development revenue. Property tax revenue at 36% of general fund revenue is the largest of the city's revenue sources and tends to be the most stable in times of economic ups and downs. Property tax revenue was 4.6% greater than the prior year and totaled about $13.4 million for the fiscal year. The city's sales tax revenue is made up of different industry groups that react differently to changes in the economy. The fuel and service station industry group, which makes up about 18% of the city's sales tax revenue, was down a little this year, reflecting statewide trends toward reduced consumption and lower prices at the pump. The building and construction industry group was also down slightly, about 2%. There was a modest amount of growth in the state and county pools. Overall, the city's base 1% Bradley Burns sales tax revenue came in at about $4.9 million, and the Measure D20 revenues were about $6.6 million. Because Measure D20 is an add-on transaction tax, it does capture some extra sales in some of the industry groups, including general consumer goods, autos and transportation, business and industry, and building and construction that our Bradley Burns tax doesn't capture. D20, on the other hand, it does not capture any sales and from the state and county pools. Transient occupancy tax, or TOT, has been trending up generally over the last decade due to the council's emphasis on economic development and the efforts from the Atascadero Tourism Business Improvement District. While these positive overall trends are expected to continue, fiscal year 24-25 TOT revenue of about $1.99 million were slightly less than the prior year and the budgeted amount. Permits and development activity was strong again this year and only slightly down from the prior year. Permits and development revenue came in at just over $1.8 million. Overall, the total general fund revenues, excluding Measure F14, were $37.6 million for the fiscal year. The largest portion of general fund expenditures is dedicated to employee services to attract and retain the best highly qualified staff. About 66% of general fund expenditures went toward employee services. Staffing costs for 24-25 were higher than the prior year as expected, but came in under budget. One of the goals of Measure D20 was to fund critical public safety positions and competitive salaries across all city departments. So thank you again to our community for supporting Measure D20, and we see it that it's being used as intended. Operating supplies and services came in higher than the prior year, but were lower than we budgeted. Sales tax measure D20 is also providing additional operating resources to allow for more adequate funding for necessary operating supplies and services to the public, with a focus on council's priorities. The city was successful at moving many big projects forward during the fiscal year, many of which will also continue into the current year. Some of these include contributions for the Public Safety Facilities Project, the General Plan Update, Building Maintenance Fund reserves, and the Zoo accreditation projects. The remaining amount of about $4.6 million was budgeted but not spent for projects for 24-25 and will be rolled over to be used in the current year 25-26. Those funds are reflected in the 24-25 general fund reserves at the end of the year. We've been focusing on the general fund excluding Measure F14, and we reviewed Measure F14, the annual report, the last council meeting, so I will only touch on this briefly. Measure F14 revenue was about $3.4 million, with expenditures coming in at about $5.5, as we were able to use some of the Measure F14 reserves to fund projects that needed to be done with those funds for road improvements. In accordance with the budget and the 5-year capital improvement plan, we ensure that we maximize the use of those funds while not outspending our revenues in the long term. Excluding Measure F14, the general fund revenues or reserves were just under $20 million, or 55% of general fund expenditures for the year, and as previously discussed, include about $4.6 million in capital project funds that weren't spent in 24-25, but that will be used in the current year. The city is the member of the CalPERS, California Public Employment Retirement System, CalPERS, and offers retirement benefits to its employees. The city's CalPERS retirement plans are grouped with similar agencies into what they call pools. The city's net pension liability is affected not only by the city-specific factors, but also the activity of those pools. At the end of the year, the city's net pension liability was about $36.8 million. The net pension liability has decreased roughly $934,000 from last year. The calculation is to determine that net pension liability are based on a prior year. So for fiscal year, the fiscal year 2024 numbers were used to calculate this. During the 23-24 year, CalPERS had a 9.5% return on investments, exceeding their discount rate of 6.9%. Partially offsetting that gain were non-investment losses, which CalPERS has attributed to inflationary impacts like COLAs and salary increases. The aggregate impact resulted in a decrease in the city's proportionate share of the net pension liability. There were no changes in assumptions or methods made by CalPERS. The CalPERS investment return for 24-25 was 11.6. The city paid about $3.2 million in the unfunded accrued liability, UAL, for the year. The city has a dedicated, solid financial plan and is prepared for fiscal sustainability. With the help of Measure D20 and some other resources, we've been able to better focus on council's priorities. That concludes staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions along with Mr. Travis Wool from the auditor's office.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rangel. I'm going to start on my right with Councilmember Newsom and see if we have any council questions.
None at this time. Thank you. It's a nice report.
Councilmember Funk.
I want to first thank staff for answering my so many of my questions in advance. A couple of things. I note that there was a a significant difference in the, we had a lot higher revenue from D20, which is a 1% sales tax, than from the Bradley Burns, as it's called, the city's basic cut of the sales tax that otherwise goes to the state and other entities, the base sales tax. And I understand am I correct in understanding that for online sales, that base 1% that you refer to as Bradley Burns goes to essentially wherever the Amazon warehouse is, that city, but that we get the D20 here. Is that correct for online sales?
Well, online is a little tricky and it depends on a lot of factors. It's a pretty complex law. But some of the other items that are more easily identified would be a purchase of a new vehicle that you purchased in San Luis Obispo. San Luis Obispo would get the base sales tax on that, but the city of Atascadero would get the Measure F14 tax on that piece because it's based on where you live, where you're registered with the DMV. So things like that, general consumer goods might be your refrigerator, your washer and dryer, or business items if a business is buying from other places. So it not all purchases online. Some of those purchases online will end up in the state and county pools, which the city of Atascadero gets a percentage of that total pool amount it's allocated out based on our total percentage of the county's pie.
Okay, thank you. So the safe thing is buy local, and that way the sales tax does come here to our city for both the base amount and the extra, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then looking at the general fund reserves, if you put that back up, I see that we have a significant increase in the last few years in our general fund reserve. Earlier tonight, we talked about that table on the fire engine item of $6.5 million that in soft costs. Does this, are things like that, we're stashing away money for that to be able to pay for those? And is that what we're seeing here in this increase in funding for general reserve? That as an example of the kind of reserving that we're doing.
As an example, yes. So much of that 6.5 we talked about has already been moved out of the general fund into the project fund specifically for that project. We did have quite a number of capital and special projects that we weren't able to spend in fiscal year 24-25. That came to a total of about 4.6 million, which would include things like the $1 million for the zoo, capital projects for those items, the restaurant loan program, trying to think of the other items that were on there. So there's quite a number of things that totaled up to that 4 million. So that is included in that generally reserved number, that 19 million that you see there. But we will be spending that 4.6 in the current year, or the majority of it, general plan, the zoning updates, the broadband, those types of things should come through on this year. So that is about 4.6 million of those items. We also do have a little bit of money in the reserve that we got in previous years for things like the money that was freed up for the ARPA funding through the COVID piece. We do have a little bit of that set aside for things like economic development and things like that, and a little bit of like PG&E money that we got from the closure of Diablo. We have some of those funds. So those are all built in that have been collected and waiting to be spent. So while you see it going up a little bit, we do have plans for much of that funding.
Okay, so what this tells me then, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're identifying needs and saving up the money for those needs rather than putting them on a credit card.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on this side of the dais?
Very encouraging. Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you. And thank you for the report, and thank you for spending time with me this afternoon to answer some of my questions so everybody else doesn't have to listen to them here. I did want to just point something out and say thank you to the city attorney for coming in considerably under budget. Greatly appreciated. Not a lot of cities can say that this year, I think. And so we appreciate the responsible billing and you working with the city manager and staff to keep legal costs down. Greatly appreciate that and reinforces a belief that we made a good decision in selecting you as our city attorney. So thank you for that. I do have a question since you came all the way here and sat through our meeting. I do have a question for the auditor. In your letter, you state that um, essentially an unqualified opinion that the financial statements fairly represent our financial position and all of that sort of thing. So that's great. You say there that you obtain an understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit, to design audit procedures that are appropriate, but not for purposes of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of our internal controls. If you saw any what you felt were inadequacy or issue, I assume you would point that out either, to staff or to us.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things we do with the audit before we dive into all the millions of dollars, we have to look at the internal control structure of the city. One, just to look at the design, and then to look at the implementation after that. I'm surprised Jerry didn't mention it, but we looked through everything. We pulled transaction samples of everything. We can't look through everything, obviously, but we did not find any inadequacies or errors in the internal controls that we did look at this year. So it was a clean audit from that perspective as well. And then, yeah, if anything popped up, that's usually why I met with you earlier this year. I meet with the city manager. So if I had any concerns, that would be shared with you.
Got it. And so speaking of that, does that mean there are actually no correcting entries made as a result of the audit? Because usually there's always something that just needs to be adjusted or something. Were there no correcting entries?
We did not have any this year.
Okay, that is absolutely outstanding. Great job. Great job. That's impressive, Jerry. Yes, thank you. Okay, well, with that, I picked up a few more questions, but you don't need to hear them. I'll ask the relevant staff. Let's see if we have any member of the public wishing to comment on this item. We do.
You do, Jeff Austin. Just two comments. The first one's on TOT tax. Although it had a little slide last year, next year you should see, even if we have less occupancy in Atascadero, we should see more TOT tax because we did raise the tax for that fiscal year in front of us, I believe. Secondly, for online orders, a friend of ours bought our daughter a present for her birthday that lives in Massachusetts. And it comes down like this: California state tax, California. California county tax, San Luis Obispo. California city tax, Atascadero. California special tax, San Luis Obispo. Colorado local sales tax, because I guess she ordered it online. It was shipped from Colorado to us. So I don't know the percentages. She had blocked that out, but she called me up and said, "What the heck are all these taxes?"
Thank you for that comment. I don't know what the ones that says San Luis Obispo is, but the county one it goes into the county pool, which frankly it shouldn't, but those are the rules. And obviously the one piece comes directly to us. So thank you for sharing that, because that's an interesting thing. And it is, like I say, it can be very confusing. So, okay, seeing no one else approach, we'll bring it back to council and see, is this just a receive and file?
Mayor, may I real quick, I just want to recognize we have Don and Cindy and Jerry and the finance team. I mean, I know they work hard, but these results are extraordinary and come at weekends of work, time away from family, massive commitment. They always are there for the rest of the staff, serving us with a smile. So on behalf of the staff, I want to thank all of you for the tremendous work you do. It is not taken for granted, and it is all noticed. And I want to thank you in front of the city council. Your team is tremendous. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for those comments. And we greatly appreciate you mentioning it. We sometimes just think it's easy and it just happens, and it doesn't. Well, sometimes we just think it happens automatically, and it takes a hell of a lot of work and competency, I might add. So, Okay, so we've reviewed and we are accepting the financial audit. So thank you, and thank you to the auditor. We don't need a motion, correct, clerk? Okay, so with that, we will move on to the next item, which is related, but are some budget adjustments for the current fiscal year 25-26.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Yes, now we will present to you 25-26 budget adjustments for consideration. So Atascadero adopted its current 2-year budget in June of last year. As the budget was being developed, it was a time of uncertainty in economic conditions, potential impacts of tariffs, and other external factors. For this reason, the council and the staff applied a conservative strategy toward the budget to maintain essential services while safeguarding against potential fiscal unknowns. There were a number of priority expenditures that were not included in this more conservative budget. However, now that we've just seen our last item, the fiscal year 24-25, and know that the general fund performed well, now there is capacity to address some of those one-time items. This is a strategic opportunity for us. We now have the ability to reinvest some of these savings and revenues from fiscal year 24-25 into those one-time projects and critical needs that will strengthen city infrastructure, enhance public safety, and improve community amenities. The proposed items came out of lengthy discussions with the city's executive team to identify those highest priority items for funding without compromising long-term financial stability. Those items that we would like to propose for consideration are $564,000 for a Type 1 engine that we discussed earlier tonight, $135,000 for additional items for the downtown infrastructure enhancement project, $87,000 for employee separation costs due to natural retirements and things like that, $100,000 to repair the sewer line at the lake park, $30,000 to make some improvements to the ranger house, $26,000 for a drone program that the police department will operate, $30,000 in zoo rebranding costs, and $60,000 to enhance our contingency. Our city's strategic 2-year budget cycle and 7-year planning horizon allow us to be the best stewards of the community's resources to fund current needs and maintain fiscal sustainability. The health of the general fund performance from last fiscal year increased the general fund reserves, as we discussed earlier. This provided an opportunity to strategically invest this $1.28 million in general funds in high priority one-time items that support council's priorities. The general fund reserves, after including this $1.28 million in the projects listed here, would remain above the levels estimated in the 25-27 adopted budget's 7-year projection. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll start on my left with Councilmember Peak. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm reading here on the drone program. I just want to be clear that this is covering soft costs, education, equipment, and there will be policy forthcoming that we will be involved in. And I just really want to highlight the final sentence of this paragraph: never for routine patrol or generalized surveillance.
Yes, Councilmember, and that's actually one of our major concerns, is that people understand exactly that. Drones are going to be utilized and typically are utilized for specific purposes. We just passed the fireworks ordinance, so we're going to be using it very much in accordance with that. We do not want to violate anybody's zone of privacy. This goes back all the way to the 1964 decision from the Supreme Court in the Connecticut versus Griswold decision. So we very much pay attention to those things and want to respect people's privacy. think there was a first part of the question that I missed. Yeah.
Just that policy would be forthcoming before anything would happen, before they even go in the air.
No, absolutely. And so that's something that we're lucky enough to have some individuals within our police department that have a lot of experience, both professionally and personally with drones. So we're looking forward to having them partake in that as well.
Okay. Rep. Pro Tem Daris?
Thank you. On the contingency increase, could you give examples of what the contingency funds have been used for in the past, and what's the total amount of the contingency funds? Is it increased by 60, or is it up, or is it increased to 60? I know Jim and I talked about this, but I still was a little confused. So if you could just explain, just kind of clarify this for me and anybody else that might be watching.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. So in prior to the most current budget, the 25-27, the city manager's office had a contingency of 100,000, and then a few of the other departments had a few $1,000s here and there in case of things that came up. My department, for example, had $5,000. So if the county auditor controller's office that collects and charges us for the collection of property tax came in higher, I would have a resource to be able to pay that. I can't not pay that bill. We need to collect our sales or our property tax. So things like that that come up. So for the 25-27 budget cycle, City Manager Lewis graciously offered to divide up that $100,000 contingency and spread it across many of the departments. So each department got a little more contingency, and some didn't have any before, and they had some. So they were able to do a little bit more, which reduced significantly the city manager's contingency. So things that we have used it for the current year, for example, we had the garden lights and cities, garden lights and winter nights. There we go. And so we were short a little bit of the funding that was needed for that. So the contingency came in. So it's just for things that we are doing in the regular course of business, or if an opportunity comes up and the council wants to move forward on something, we have that opportunity to do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to jump in on that. To me, our staff has very much earned our trust with these contingency funds through good management that is evidenced in, just talking about the very point that we're able to cough up money to, go ahead and purchase a fire truck because we budget conservatively and our staff, most importantly, executes conservatively. And so I have, great confidence, and actually think it's a very good management move to ensure that each department does have some degree of contingency. I would like to, periodically know what what contingency money is spent on. In particular, that contingency money in some organizations, people would rush to spend their contingency money at the end of the year, and I know Jerry wouldn't allow that to happen, but that's a thing. But I think it's, from my perspective, having observed this organization for many years now, our staff does an outstanding job. It's why we are ending up the year positive in terms of, revenue higher than budgeted and expenses lower than budgeted. And that I feel very comfortable with the city manager putting some of those contingencies out to the departments, and then us restoring the contingency amounts to the city manager. I did have a question on the drone program for the chief. I saw this because I've asked about drones multiple times. It's something I see in other communities. I feel like we were a little bit behind the power curve on the use implementation of drones. I think Councilmember Peak raises an excellent question, which of course we want to see the policy before we actually implement it. But I've been very much for this, waiting for this, and again, very happy that we have the budget savings to do this. I saw the amount, $26,000, and I'm thinking it's actually small. And I don't mean relative to drones, but there are other what I consider force multipliers for the police department, whether they be drones, cameras, potentially a license plate reader, things like that. We'd have to discuss the policy behind those, but that technology, because these things are not cutting edge new technologies. These have been around and tried and tested in a lot of jurisdictions. And so I'm wondering if we might also down the road be looking at you to come forward with some additional requests for some other technology enhancements that would enable your folks to be more efficient in, identifying crime, solving crime, preventing crime.
So thanks for that question, Mayor. We always want to scale the rate or the speed at which we enter into new technologies. I think that, as we get into the drone program, I think that's a good start. And then we can start looking at some of the other technologies that will enhance our ability to do investigations. There are always going to be something out there that we'll see as the newest, greatest thing that we would like to be able to get involved with. I like to try to, step back a little bit and watch how other agencies, utilize those technologies so that we know that if we do make an investment in those, that we're going to get a return on that investment. We are very, very closely watching some of the things that you mentioned, especially cameras and license plate readers, because of the rate of success that agencies have in catching perpetrators when that type of technology is used. So to answer your question, yes, we watch those things very, very closely. We do want to get into that when the time is appropriate. We just want to scale that the entry into those things.
Okay, thank you. Because people who know me know I'm pretty much of a Luddite in my personal life. That I, very, very. I say I'm 64, but my technology age is 84. So I'm not one to rush out and want to, buy the latest gadget that you see. But I think some of these have been around long enough that they've been proven. They're not the kind of thing you go out and buy and it's going to be obsolete in a year, because they're starting to settle down into, things that have been experienced. So yeah, I for one would like to just kind of look into those things as force multipliers. Okay, Councilmember Funk.
There. But my microphone needs a lot of reminders. So, first of all, on the what's called employee separation costs. Am I right in understanding this, that essentially this is what we're looking at is the price of building a culture where we are able to retain employees for a long time? I mean, we just recognized a fire captain for 25 years of service. And we have long-term employees like that. And when we do, we have limits on how much vacation they can accrue, right? But, they also have like sick leave and other things. So if they stay healthy, then, we over time, there's, some accrual for that. Am I right in understanding that?
Yes, you are right. And we are very fortunate here at the city to have a staff with quite a large number of a lot of years in experience. So it is a terrific thing to have. And we are sorry when people retire, but this would go toward that end of paying out some of those costs for them.
Right. So it's a small price of success in being able to retain our long-term employees and their effectiveness. I have a question with regarding to the zoo rebranding, and I'm wondering if staff could tell us more about exactly how that funding is intended to be used, and how this relates to the work we've already approved.
Thank you, Council and Councilmember Funk. So with the zoo rebranding, we have our marketing that we're out there, part of our marketing budget already in marketing the zoo. The zoo rebranding is all the signage that we've had to go in and replace in the zoo. We're going to be wrapping the zoo's minivan that's used out there with the different organizations traveling across the county and beyond the county for ambassador programs and things like that when we go to different schools and organizations. We also will be updating the Dial Arrive van that's out there that says needs to be updated with the website. We have our entrance archway sign. We also have our zoo building signs that we're updating. So all of this is inclusive of that 30,000. And we have different billboards that we're updating as well with the branding. We have an opportunity in the back of the pavilion parking lot that has that big wall that could be an opportunity for signage there as well. And we also have our, let's see here, the tent for our ambassador events. We did a pop-up tent that has all the branding on it. We have the paddock plaza and doing a paddock plaque in that area that we're working on. And then just a variety of event banners. We use event banners, I'd say about 5 years in a row. And they're very like, you know, second Saturday in February is going to be Woo at the Zoo. It's that kind of thing. So we're updating all those banners. So that's all inclusive of all of those costs together.
What I want to be very clear about with Director Banish is, in light of dialogue in the community, we want to make sure all of our branding is the Central Coast Zoo Atascadero.
Yes.
And so that Atascadero is included in everything. We heard you, and so we're making sure we're going through everything. So it's branded Central Coast Zoo Atascadero. And so that is why I think this is an important item that I authorized to be before you, is because I think it's very important in light of conversations we've had to honor the city's name. I also want to make sure that we're doing right by Charles Paddock, making sure his name is very prominent in the Charles Paddock Plaza, and that you see that right as you walk up to the zoo. So I think that was why I wanted to make sure this was in front of you. And I want to be very clear on the record about Atascadero being part of the name and honoring Mr. Paddock.
And could you talk a little bit more about on the Charles Paddock Plaza, how that recognition will be, and what we're doing to be able to, I mean, right now, if you want to see Charles, I mean, you see the statue, but if you want to, find out the name or more, you have to look all the way up to that archway signage, and people miss that. So is there something that's going to be more at eye level or engaging, where children might see it and spark those conversations that help people tell the story about how this community was built?
Absolutely. So you're right. Sense of place is the entrance. So we won't, where you have to look up and see, Charles Paddock up there. It won't be, it'll be down by the statue itself. And we're working on different ways to add signage in that area, because we have the bronze plaque, we have the bronze story that tells about Charles Paddock there. And that's the location that we're looking at, putting the Paddock Plaza plaque in that area so everybody can enjoy and see that it's Paddock Plaza. So we're getting some pricing also for kind of like, there is a circle in the middle of the plaza, having a bronze stamp that says Paddock Plaza in that location as well. So we're getting some pricing with different things. Because it's bronze, it takes quite a bit of time, 4 to 6 weeks from when we give it to the contractor to make that sign, but it will be very nicely done and very representative of Charles Paddock.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then on the drone program, like my colleagues, I want to make sure that we have the policies related to the drone program come back before this council so that everybody can be comfortable in how it's going to be used in this community, in the hands of our professional law enforcement, which is very different than some of what we're seeing elsewhere. And when that does come back to this council and those policies come forward, will that also include a clear discussion of any use of AI that might be involved, and of how the data will or will not be shared with other agencies? There's a lot of anxiety about how data sources have been tapped, legitimately or not, to fuel efforts to identify persons who might appear to be in the country illegally. And I want to make sure that we understand how that data is being used to keep this community safe and not as a big brother.
Yes, Councilmember Funk. When it comes to drones, the drones, the level of drones that we're going to be looking at don't necessarily have any type of AI capability. Really, the level of technology we're going to have is going to be video and recording. So there's going to be, in the policy, is going to point us elsewhere in our policy that deals with our footage retention schedules and how we go about doing that. We're going to mirror like the body worn camera language and things of that nature. So it will be encompassed in that policy.
Okay, thank
Well, I
you.
think,
That-
I'm sorry, I didn't answer the question in regards to data sharing. Because it's recordings of video, we also have policy that's already in place when it comes to what we do with that. And typically it's evidentiary, and we hold that unless there's a public records request that would authorize the release of it or mandate the release of it, or if it's going to be released to a court for evidentiary purposes.
Okay, thank you. For AI, I was just noting that my little security camera, which is nothing terribly fancy, now has a little feature telling me a light opossum is trotting across your patio. Those kinds of interpretive things. But for law enforcement, there is peril in our trusting technology to tell us what is going on rather than our trained professional law enforcement.
Yes, and then there are new technologies that are coming out. They can do exactly what you're saying. Can notify, can basically be the first alert to notify a human, and a human will do the verification process. So there's still going to be humans involved in that. Now, granted, we're not looking at those things right now, but the technologies that I am seeing that are starting to find their ways into like a real-time crime center, the AI can be utilized in order to, again, notify a human that there's something to be looking at, which therefore takes away the need to have somebody sitting in front of a TV screen for 24 hours a day. So it allows the AI to do the heavy lifting on that. And again, notify a human to verify that there is a need to maybe send an officer to check something.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for keeping us updated on that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, could I just add one minor thing on that? The legislature is aware of the use of AI in law enforcement. SB 524 was passed during the last legislative session that sets some guidelines on how law enforcement can use AI. So that is something that Sacramento is aware of, and I suspect that to the extent that AI is going to be used in any future law enforcement contexts, there are discussions being had in Sacramento at this point.
Thank you. Councilmember Newsom, any questions?
Thank you. I was just going to speak to the drones and the record retention. I just spent Friday in Sacramento at one of the public safety meetings, and they had talked in great detail about the record retention, usage of data. And as our attorney spoke, there is legislation out there of how quickly the data is destroyed. There's conversation about a 60-day purge of data. So it's nice to know that we're in line with it. We're understanding the risks and the limitations that we have for both using and being respectful of confidentiality, as well as using it for other crimes. And also sharing data amongst jurisdictions of fire, any of that sort of stuff. You guys will be able to use that. Sorry, my screen closed and I had my other notes up. I'll come back after public comment.
Okay, great. Let's go out then, see if there's any public comment on this item.
Jeff Oslin, city resident. I want to thank the city manager and council for adding Atascadero to the name of the zoo. I think that's great. Only concern I would have on that, not trying to push it, is that it's not an address. It's actually somewhat prominent. That Central Coast Zoo Atascadero should be the name. I appreciate that. As far as the rebranding goes, maybe a suggestion on the Charles Paddock. Is there a way that we can do a bronze QR code on Charles Paddock? Because it seems like technology is going that direction. And then that's safe for the long term. And then the other question I have in the funding, the last 2, 3, 4 years at strategic planning, there has been discussion about adding more funding to youth sports. So in this area here, I don't see any additional funding. I know that was put in, that if there was extra funds, we would do that. So just asking if there's any way to add additional funds for our youth in our community. So he seems to be in need. And then lastly, on my nice little notes, I have a question. When different departments come up and borrow money outside of their budget, to fix something here and there, and they're taking out of the reserves, is this the funding that goes back in to replace those borrowed funds? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll bring it back to council for any follow-up question and discussion and a motion.
Couple more questions. Downtown infrastructure enhancement project, that wraps up that whole project this fiscal year, correct?
I'll do it. Well, maybe not quite this fiscal year. We could, I've been talking with Mr. Hayes. So this covers urns on the bridge, benches, bike racks, the decorative pole caps that we did not have in the original specifications. We could move forward with that, but Mr. Hayes is thinking it'd be more strategic and we'd get better pricing if we did that on the same contract as the arch project in the fall when we actually start construction then. So we'll be going to bid on the arch this spring, by May, June, and then including that project. So he's looking at that right now. If there isn't a significant efficiency or savings, then we might just go forward with it, but he tends to believe there will be. So it could be in the fall.
Okay, good to know. It's always nice to save a few dollars. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the process, if you will, I mean, part of these things are available because we had, good management, sound management, and having lower expenses and higher revenue than originally budgeted. But it isn't an open door for, departments to just come in and ask for more money, correct? In answer to the question.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So, okay. In Councilmember Funk, discussion or?
Yeah. On the zoo rebranding, I'd encourage, as we're working on the things with regard to Paddock Plaza, I would encourage staff to reach out to the folks who may have been involved in developing and donating the statue and other, those commemorative things of Charles Paddock, so that we get something that is comfortable for folks, and give the opportunity for input on how that recognition is formatted. So just the dialogue would be helpful and worth a little extra time to do that. I'd also, the idea of a bronze QR code is novel and interesting, but I think it might outlast the QR code technology. So maybe not. However we do that, the opportunity for people to have a quick, easy way to learn more about the story, the history of our community, the contributions of leaders like Charles Paddock would be very helpful, and allow us to focus on the best elements of all those legacies.
I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk, a second by Councilmember Newsom. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Bobo.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item H4, update on council goals and the 2025 to 27 work plan. And this looks like this is going to be presented by our city clerk and assistant city manager, Laura Christensen.
Thank you, council. I don't really have much to say because I think we've talked about it all already, but we'll dive in a little bit. So we are doing a check-in on our work plan that we adopted, that the council adopted back during the budget process. So back in June. And this is just sort of a check-in where we're at leading into this weekend's strategic planning, where a lot of the items that are listed, a lot of these actions that are listed in here will be reviewed in depth. So I will skip over a lot of those. They are all in the staff report. So I'll skip over them and I'll kind of highlight some of the ones that we aren't going to talk about over the weekend, just so that we can highlight those a little bit. Just for a quick background for those who may be watching and don't know, the council every 2 years holds a large-scale goal-setting workshop where you all come up with strategic planning statements and strategic priorities. The executive team then takes those statement and priorities and turns them into a work plan, which then guides the budget. This work plan that was adopted by council had 47 action items. What I'd like to point out is those 47 action items are above and beyond the day-to-day operations. And these 47 action items and the success we've had on them, as you can see, there's only 2 things of the 47 action items that are not yet in progress, ongoing, or completed. So 20 items are currently in progress. 18 of them are ongoing items that will continue until the priorities or goals of the council change. And 7 of those action items have been completed since July 1, which is huge. And that really reflects the exceptional work, the collaboration, and the diligence of the city staff across the entire organization, because this work plan touches all departments. The progress staff has made is also a reflection of the city council's clear direction in these goals and in those key priorities of the city, your commitment to the city's long-term success, and also your willingness really to invest the resources that city staff needs to turn those goals into actual results. And so I just want to actually take a second to thank the city council really for, as Mayor Bobo said earlier, the trust that you have in this team, in the A team, and in your dedication for serving our community. Because of that, we are able to make the level of progress that we've made. Just as a kind of reminder, I won't go over them, but these are your strategic priorities and your key focus areas. These have carried over the last several budget cycles. And so staff continues to build on those action items, continue to build on these goals. Just quickly, just to talk about a couple of things under economic and community vibrancy. There were 16 action items there. One of those action items is still planned. That will move forward once the general plan update is adopted. We have 8 items in progress, 2 ongoing, and 5 complete. That's huge. Of some of those things, a big focus of our economic development manager has been ongoing business attraction. That also ties into that general plan update, and that's really looking at ways to bring in those high-paying jobs, those in-demand retail businesses, everything that enhances the shopping here in the city and then helps to boost our revenue. So our economic development manager has developed a direct marketing campaign, and then our community development team is working on new zoning regulations that will be part of the general plan update that facilitate these cool new ways to get these businesses here. So the roll-up door spaces, the large innovation and flex spaces. So all of that helps bring in that light industrial land use. We also have facilitated ongoing major development projects. That's huge. Del Rio Marketplace, Del Rio Ranch, Dove Creek, Barrel Creek, all of those, the city staff has done what they can do to move those forward, and they are now really dependent on the continued action by those development teams. And so it's really cool to see that all of these are approved and they are waiting construction, or like with Del Rio Marketplace, that there's only a few that construction is moving on, they're getting filled up. And so that is ways that we're seeing the city really develop and move forward. We implemented the summer aquatics program, which was hearing the community needs and moving that forward. That also goes to our partnerships with our community. That was a huge success. We had 120 individuals take swim lessons. We had 100 people take advantage of free swim and lap swim. And then that also allowed us to hire a part-time aquatics coordinator, and then during the season, 8 temporary lifeguards. So that also was able to bring some employment into our students here in the city. And then just one more thing to highlight here, we facilitated the Centennial Plaza, that sale and development. So that sale's done. It's now moving forward through the process to be developed, to get construction plans drafted up and submitted. It also spurred on what the hopes were, what council really hoped to see, which was non-conforming land uses around the Sunken Gardens start to come in and talk about how those non-conforming now become conforming commercial retail uses. And so again, our planning department, our economic development manager is having those conversations with these commercial developers and with these landowners on ways to turn the Sunken Gardens into what this council has envisioned. Under our fiscal and infrastructure efficiency and sustainability, again, 17 action items there. Only 1 remains planned. We have 9 in progress, 6 ongoing, and 1 complete. A big part of this has been software implementation for operational efficiencies. So we've been looking at like our asset management software that has 3 phases. The first one goes live in May, which is huge. This is going to allow the consolidation of all of the city's asset data into one software program, where then we're able to track, manage, and then utilize that program to be out doing the work we need to do and then follow up on that. So that's really huge for our public works department. It's huge for finance, and then it's also huge for police and fire. It also, our new software, our new accounting software goes live in July on the finance side. So that's big. That's been several years in the making. And so they've been learning the new software. They've been tracking that. They've been getting ready to get all of the information uploaded to go live. And then that allows us to then transition to the HR module for that to go live in January of 2027. So that's in progress. This also has allowed both finance and HR to really look at workflows and identify the opportunities for streamlining and modernization. So that's been a big, that moving forward, that technology we've talked about. Part of also this technology and moving forward is a comprehensive review of the city's energy usage. We've been talking about that. All of our facilities, all of the way that they get energy, use energy, all of our maintenance, it's all handled differently. And we need a way to consolidate that. We need a way to manage that outside of just that asset software. And so a draft RFP has been put together really to comprehensively understand our energy efficiency here at the city, and then what that looks like moving forward, what we can put in place when we have compressors go out in a building like this, or when we need to update air conditioning units at the Ranger House or at the Pavilion. And so this will allow us to look at really doing that analysis of these facilities and really determine long-term maintenance and replacement. And so that draft RFP is anticipated to go to be sent out in early spring. And then promoting transparency, accountability, and accessibility of city services. This is not just making sure information is available, but that also we are ADA compliant. There's new laws coming down for accessing digital information, so that's currently under review. It's making sure that our streets and sidewalks are meet ADA requirements. It's making sure that all of our information is readily accessible, that our records are stored in such a way that makes it easy for not only staff to access them, but to make them public. So that is an ongoing process. And part of that and what council talked about the last several years is how we make that more readily accessible, and that's moving to more digital. And then that makes it easier for all of us to manage as well as to get it out to the public faster. So we're continuing through that. And then I think a big one here, and we talked about it as part of, having a 25-year fire captain, is ongoing investment in employee culture, and that we continue with that. We've held our 3rd annual all-in. We launched Cookies and Kudos, and since the launch of that, we've recognized employees 253 times. There's been 253 kudos given out to employees for work that they do here at City Hall, work that they do in the community because they've gotten degrees or certifications. It is a big tie in for not just to our mission statement, but to the idea of teamwork, collaboration, service to the community. And then, yeah, what else do I want? And then I think on that, we also talked about hiring for heart. And I think that that's been a big one too, which has gone to our retention, is that we really do look at the people who we are hiring and do they fit in with our culture? Do they embody that without even knowing what our mission statement is in the things when we're seeing their resumes, when we're having conversations with them, when we're doing an interview, do they embody what that mission statement is? And then hiring those individuals, because we know not only will they fit into that culture here at the city, but that they will continue to push that out into the community. And so that has been really successful, I think, across all departments in hiring. And then moving on to, sorry, I did that really fast, to ensuring public safety and providing exceptional city services. I think sort of all of that, all the other two we were talking about really ties into this one. Again, 14 action items, 3 in progress. So every action item here has been touched and is currently so in progress, ongoing, and complete. We've updated and are implementing new emergency plans in our building and fire codes. Our fire department, our police department have been very, very busy on getting all of those plans updated. They have brought you already the fire hazard severity zones. Those have already been received by council. The standards of cover have been updated. Those will be going before you this weekend at strategic planning. The emergency operations plan, a draft of that will be going to council at strategic planning, and then coming back after hearing from you, that'll come back in spring for approval. The local hazard mitigation plan is updated. That's ready to come to council in spring. And then the building and fire codes are updated, and those are going to come to council next month. So our departments have been very busy in getting all of these things updated and ready to move forward for adoption. We embracing and utilizing new technology. We spent a lot of time just talking about the drone program, which is on there, which I wanted to highlight because that is one that is under development. We also have a feasibility analysis that was mentioned for new surveillance cameras. We've had a 3rd dispatch station put together that's active, that allows for training. It allows for necessary space during emergencies. When we have another dispatcher in, that we have a place for them to work from. We have the 911 recorder installed, which makes it easier for us to share and analyze the recordings that come in. We have a GIS analyst who is constantly putting together maps for fire, for planning, for all of our departments, which helps with tracking and analysis. And then just all types of new and emerging technologies, as Chief Settles mentioned, they're constantly being looked at, reviewed, and assessed. AI technology, all of those, on how that fits into the operations we're doing, and if those are things that in the future we want to bring in. So that's constantly under review. We have an essentialism task force we talked about a lot, but they continue to make progress in their meetings. We have a centralized vehicle maintenance. That's all under one contract now. So all departments know where to go, when to go, how to get their vehicles maintained. We are constantly look at ways for departments to streamline, to consolidate operations, processes, services. And then we'll be holding an essentialism day where departments can actually look at the focus on those important projects, but those that aren't urgent, and give them a chance to declutter, to clean up records, to clean up processes, just to really focus on those types of day-to-day operations that sort of get pushed to the side because we are working on some of these bigger things. And then just the supporting and training of professional development of staff. We talked a little bit about the contingency, and one of the things that City Manager Lewis did with his contingency was move some of that into citywide training to make sure that staff has access to training. So cybersecurity training, records training, ethics training, all types of training that goes to day-to-day operations, that go to special projects. So we have put more of an investment there. Departments are putting more of an investment in looking for ways to get their employees trained, utilizing the California, the CJPIA, utilizing trainings that come through them that assist us in risk management, in making our departments and our staff better. The police departments come up with the training matrix to be able to follow training for staff and make sure that the staff is getting the training. Fire has a matrix that they follow. So just implementing that and then making that commitment to our staff too, that you don't just come here and fall in a pit of doing your day-to-day, that we are growing you both technically and even in soft skills, making sure that you continue to grow professionally. And then with that, really, I'm happy to take any questions. And then a lot of the, all the exec teams here too, as well, if there's any part of that you want to dig into or anything else that was in the staff report that you'd like more information on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll start on my right with Councilmember Newsom.
Did anybody give Seth the book in Essentialism and have him read it? We only tease because that was one of our strategic planning priorities. Is we got to read the book to understand how we could focus. It's years ago, but I was just teasing.
Can I say something? If it's anything having to do with the title, I think I'm pretty much already living that.
Work here, it just doesn't, doesn't like, my mic doesn't like me tonight. First of all, it's an incredibly productive staff. And what that means when you're working together and productive is that, I don't know, our community gets well served and that our staff is able to do longer term projects that take time. We try our best as a council to give consistent direction to staff so that we're not lurching from one thing to another, but building the city over time. So that, I mean, a lot of this stuff can be frankly boring, but it's what makes it work really well. So I want to thank you for that. A couple of questions. I was just noting, am I correct in noting that for the economic and community vibrancy, you mentioned that there was one thing that's planned, but it has not been executed and that is a master plan for the public parks, open spaces and trails.
Yes,
That's
and
what-
that is once the general plan has been adopted, then those master plans will start to be revised based on the new general plan. So that is sort of planned right now, awaiting that adoption, and then that work will move forward.
Okay, so as we're looking at how can the city support youth recreation with the spaces to allow kids to be kids and to do things and all of us to be physically active, that's where we'll have that opportunity to really understand that systematic investment.
Yes, that's where more of that will come up. Yes.
Okay, and another hearing, since we haven't heard from Director Dunsmore all evening. People always love to complain about planning processes and what permitting processes and what it takes to get a new thing forward. And many times I find that they're complaining about, oh, I had this terrible experience with the Planning Commission and it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And so I see that we have a whole process that we've streamlined, the plan check review, and done things to make the development process easier. So when people want to get stuff done on their properties, it's faster and quicker. Could you just tell us a little bit more about that? What's been done and what's coming?
If I tell you too much, you will spoil what was going to bring you at strategic planning this Friday night. But I'll give you just a little hint. We're constantly making improvements to the development review process, but one of the bigger ones is really just making sure that when a project gets stuck in the development review process, that we immediately meet with everybody to say what's going on so we can reduce additional plan checks. So that's just one example of several things I'll be chatting about at strategic planning. But yeah, we'll have more.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Daras, any questions? Councilmember Peak? Okay, let's open us up to the public for any comment. Okay, seeing no one approach, we'll bring it back to council. And this is a receive and file item, so there's no motion required. So unless any member of council wishes to further discuss, we will consider the matter done. Okay, with that, we will move on to our committee reports from council members. I'll start this time on my left with Councilmember Peak.
No committee reports this meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Daras?
Capslo met last Thursday, but I did not make that meeting. Tomorrow, APCD meets at 9 o'clock, so I'll have that one, and that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, actually, all four of mine have something to say. The city selection committee is made up of the mayors who, when there is a need for a city representative to be, that's not directly from one individual city, but it needs to be placed on a body, the city selection committee meets. And I mentioned at the end of the last meeting that there is an opening on LAFCO. Due to the end of Mr. Gregory's term, councilman member from Paso Robles. And so I want to encourage my colleagues to consider applying for that vacancy. It is kind of sort of a North County vacancy, and it sort of rotates, generally speaking, between Paso and Atascadero. And given, I think city manager might have a comment about why it might be a good idea or important for us to at least consider having one of our own apply for that position on LAFCO.
We're engaging with Eagle Ranch again, and I think that would be really helpful to have someone on LAFCO as we guide through with them.
Yeah, and I would comment, LAFCO is not does not meet all that regularly because it meets as needed based upon LAFCO related actions. So it's not, as committees go, it's not a monthly type of meeting, if anybody's concerned about that in terms of the time commitment. So I would encourage you to look at, look at that. Jim, I think I sent you the email, Mr. Lewis, on, referencing the position, but if not, I'll look back and forward that so that you can, or I can send it to all the council members. Okay, county mayors met last week, had a good meeting as usual in Morro Bay, and learned about the Morro Bay Bird Festival. And I understand they go all over the county and even outside the county with different tour guide tours. And I think they come to Atascadero Lake and see the bald eagles and that sort of thing. So it's interesting. There's different events in different cities that we sometimes don't know about, but that end up participating in our community. Integrated Waste Management Authority, we met last Wednesday. We completed the sale of the old IWMA property, which is right across from San Luis Obispo City Hall, and meaning I'm now going to have to find a new place to park when I go down, go to meetings down there. Anyway, that sale was completed. The IWMA had previously bought new offices and has been using them for several months now over on Choro Street. So, and so that money will go back into the general fund for the IWMA. It's sold for about $850,000. And then, speaking of going to meetings, tomorrow morning I have a meeting with 3CE, Central Coast Community Energy Board, and that's going to be important because the 3CE board is going to be asked to approve a significant rate reduction in the generation rates for 3CE. And 3CE, there's a generation charge on your bill for the energy that 3CE generates. The rest of the bill is from PG&E for the transmission and distribution of that power. But the California Public Utilities Commission has recently significantly raised what's called the power charge indifference adjustment, which had to do with trying to help cover investor-owned utilities like PGE, their costs from old power purchase agreements they entered into before they lost some of these customers. And it's the most significant adjustment they made in it. And unfortunately for Atascadero, they've significantly increased that thing the PUC has. So even though 3CE will be able to lower the generation rates, our customers may see an increase because of the action of the PUC. But the reduction by 3CE is around 20 to 25% in the generation rates, in the rates charged for the electricity they generate. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow at that meeting, but it's significant action. So, and I think that's it for committee. Well, actually, I rejected. So let me go down to Councilmember Funk. I know she had an early morning this morning.
Yes, if I seem a little bleary-eyed, that every 2 years there is the point in time count of unsheltered homeless people, and where teams go out in the community. And so if you notice folks in orange vests poking around neighborhoods in unusual places early this morning, that's what was happening. And I was one of the many volunteers involved in that process. We had 5 or 6 teams looking for unhoused persons in various parts of Atascadero. So I think we had very thorough coverage. And great, huge appreciation to everyone who volunteered, to our PD who worked behind the scenes to help us help the volunteers be briefed on where to look for folks that they might encounter, to make sure that we get a decent count so that we understand sort of the acid test for how efforts to address homelessness are working in the community. And whether for people who engage in services and people who do not. So that's also, at the same time, they do a count of everybody who's of all the folks in sheltered homelessness on the same night. So that reporting will be coming up in coming months after the county consolidates all of the things, make sure that we're not double counting and all of those kinds of concerns, reports it in the format for HUD, and then prepares it in a report that's a little bit more informative for our community. We, for instance, care a lot about what's the number in Atascadero, and HUD only cares about what's happening in the county, the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. So we will have that more detailed number coming up, but it'll take a few months to get all that finished out.
Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you. I was at League of California Cities Public Safety Committee conference that I alluded to. It was a great discussion with other colleagues throughout the state. Some of the topics that we kind of hit on, obviously, was technology was one of those. But then we also talked about the budget shortfall, and the league's message to the state is no more unfunded mandates. To put the money where it counts at the local level, and it's the cities, and that to trust in government. A few points that kind of stood out is that there are numerous cities that are faced with mental health issues and the health and wellness of their officers. One city spoke about a colleague committing suicide and wanting to implement a mental health and wellness policy in their city. And so I reached out to her and let her know that we'd be happy to share with our resources that we implemented years ago, and feel that we can be just as successful in their jurisdiction as it has been for us. There's concern amongst youth access to the Class 2 e-bikes. They seem to be getting on them without helmets and protections. Something that would be key under Prop 4 was possible funding for defensible space for Zone 0. They talked about water supply, wildfire severity maps, and wildfire fire liabilities. And then our committee did discuss Prop 36 language that had previously been discussed back in 2024, despite the current nothing in the current budget, but efforts to try to reduce the retail theft and shoplifting. So it was very informative. So appreciate the opportunity to serve. And then I have a slow cog meeting next week that's full of even more reading.
All right,
you.
thank you. Next is individual action and determinations, and I'm going to start, I could have mentioned this under committee reports, but this weekend on Saturday afternoon, I had the opportunity and pleasure of showing Congressman Jimmy Panetta around, and started here at City Hall and walked by some things happening on West Mall, but then walked down. Congressman Panetta was instrumental in getting our city $1 million. It's going to help us do that phase 2 of the downtown enhancement project, specifically the arches that will go down around Huckleberry's and up by the police station. Also some funding for the pedestrian tunnel. And so walked him through there, showed him the Echo, what Echo's doing in terms of the expansion. So I had a great, we were limited in time, so got to the police station, didn't have time to go in because he also, there was a bill passed by the House anyway last week that included some additional funding that would help go towards our dispatch center expansion. And so, you know, we talked about his role and what he's done and showed him where some of that money would go. And so it was a nice but very quick visit with Congressman Panetta. And then I would like to note, I forgot to mention this last time because it's already been about 3 weeks, but Maggie Rice Vandergaan passed away. And Maggie, many of you know, is basically widely credited with starting Colony Days. And she also was the head of the Chamber of Commerce, the what we would now call the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce many years ago when I first moved to town, when it was in the little building where our plaza is now, next between Marv's gas station and Don Q's. There was a very small building there that contained the Chamber of Commerce, and that's where she was. So she was a force in our community for many years. She was into her 90s. So she was very active, remained very active in Colony Days for our the Colony Days committee for many, many years. So, and you know, her only fault was she was from Paso Robles. She was a Bearcat. So, but she loved Atascadero, and she made, you know, she helped define the city. So we will miss her. So, any other comments from council? Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you. And don't forget, everybody, we do have strategic planning on Friday night and Saturday morning, and public is very welcome here in the chambers.